Yo, welcome back. I got a great show for you guys today. We got 8 key games, a couple wagers that I think you should make, and then, of course, we have our patented pay for the drinks parlay. However, some quick housekeeping. We have to announce our winner of the giveaway from last episode, which will be Blake Miller, 4826. He said, Mikey, man, always look forward to these. You've won the giveaway. Make sure to DM me on Instagram and Twitter so that I see it. Let's have a great show. Guys, I'm just going to say it one time. Can we please like and subscribe? That's the only thing I'm going to ask of you guys. I really appreciate all the support on these shows. It's honestly been like crazy, all the comments and stuff. But can we please like and subscribe? That would just mean, it would just mean the world. Some quick housekeeping as well before we move on. All my NFL stuff is on the Sportsline YouTube and Instagram. We're going to Kansas City to watch the Chiefs play the Colts. And yes, I do have $1,000 on Jonathan Taylor to score a touchdown, but that's none of your business. It's actually all of your business. So make sure you're following along for all the content this weekend. But let's get right to it. Listen, last weekend was a tough weekend. Thank goodness we avoided the Duke cake. But there was just a lot of games that didn't go our way. Sawyer Robertson didn't cover. Brendan Sorsby lost outright. Mississippi State. Really frustrated with them. Not even on speaking terms right now with Mississippi State. However, we got a fresh week this week. I'm really excited for this weekend's games, and we've got 8 key games we're going to talk about, so let's just get right to it and stop wasting your time. Louisville is going into SMU with a 3.5-point spread. However, there is a system on the board that was a system, no longer a system. When the spread was made, Louisville was ranked 20, and SMU was -3. Now Louisville unranked, I believe. SMU still -3. When Louisville was ranked, the system was unranked home favorites against a ranked opponent. So we were going to absolutely just unleash on SMU. However, we still are. I'm going to take SMU -3, maybe buy them down to 2.5, see how the line moves throughout the week. But listen, I've talked about it all year, and I feel like it's not really that hot of a take. Miller Moss has a turnover problem, and I don't think this Louisville team is very good. Going into SMU is not a hard place to play. That's no offense to my SMU people out there. I spent 3 years in Dallas. I love all my SMU people. However, you know it. I know it. That stadium isn't very intimidating. However, Kevin Jennings is a sick quarterback. And a guy like me, I love backing a sick quarterback. So I do think SMU is the better team. I do think SMU is now kind of looking at a picture where they go, hold on a minute. If we go undefeated and win out, we have a chance to play in the ACC championship game still. And I think that locker room is going, all right, and then we'd have a chance for potential redemption in the college football playoff if we can maybe win the ACC championship. And I know there's no auto bids, but maybe the committee goes, let's get the Mustangs up moving. So, I'm in a weird spot with this game. But I'm going to take SMU for sure. I think it fit the system when Louisville was ranked, unfortunately unranked now. But I do think SMU is a better football team. Miller Moss is a turnover problem. I think SMU pretty much does whatever they want all day with Louisville. We move to the University of Missouri going into Oklahoma. Oklahoma, again, one of those teams that just took our money last weekend, and that's okay. We were just on the wrong side of a couple spots. However, it's Oklahoma minus a 7.5 at home. I might buy it down to 6.5 if I'm being a little rat, but Oklahoma minus 7.5 at home against this Mizzou team. Ahmad Hardy is legit, and I don't want the rest of what I'm going to say to come off poorly. I still don't believe in Bo Perbula. I still don't believe in what they're building at Mizzou right now. Maybe in 2 years with Bo, maybe in next year with Bo, I can be a team that I buy in on. But OU right now is looking at a situation where John Mateer seems to be fully back. Last game, he was making some throws that I went, okay, I see you, brother. And it just feels like we're in a state right now where Oklahoma's going, all right, we have a chance to make the playoff. We have a chance to make some noise in the SEC. Can we just continue to chop wood? Can we continue to move? We just knocked off a really good Alabama team. And now we have a chance to come home and get Mizzou in our building. And I don't think it's a step back spot. I think it's a take a breath and now let's roll. Like we just did something that nobody thought we were going to do last weekend. Now let's keep that momentum. And I think playing Mizzou at home is a keep that momentum spot. The fans are going to be in the stadium. Everyone's going to be up and moving. I think it's going to be a great game. So I'm going to take Oklahoma as a favorite at home. We put the cup down last week, but Duke is going into North Carolina and playing Bill Belichick. Listen, every time that I say I'm going to bet Duke, I'm happy that someone in this YouTube chat says, Mikey, enough. Last weekend, I brought up the game, and then we moved right on because it just shouldn't be talked about, and it shouldn't be wagered on. However, we're taking Duke minus 6.5 here. I need to fade Bill Belichick with everything in my bones, and now we finally get our Duke team to do it. I mean, we're talking UConn, just a really bad spot for the Duke Blue Devils the past couple weeks. However, they should have never been favorites against Virginia. However, now we get -6.5 against Bill Belichick, and you're telling me I get to sit there on a Saturday and hate watch Bill Belichick lose to my Duke Blue Devils? Yes, we are taking Duke -6.5. It's just a classic I hate Bill Belichick spot, and now I get to fade Bill Belichick with my little darling that I haven't bet on the past 2 weeks. We move to a team that just continues to reach its grubby mitts in my pockets and steal all my money. Kentucky going into Vanderbilt. I'm taking Vanderbilt here. Vanderbilt's in a spot right now where you need that resume to look spit shine clean. You need that resume to look unbelievable for the College Football Playoff Committee to put you in the playoff right now. I think they're right now in. I think if they lose this game or don't win this game handily, you're on the outside looking in. I know Vanderbilt, I believe, still has a chance to contend for the SEC championship potentially, but I know they have an absolutely great chance to make it into the playoffs. So you have to win out, and you have to win in a fashion that beefs up your resume. And right now I'm looking at Vandy -9.5 against Kentucky at home in Vanderbilt in Nashville. I want everything to do with Vandy. I want everything to do with Vandy. You can't talk me into Kentucky even if you put a hex on me. I think I refuse to believe this Kentucky team will steal my coin anymore. I refuse. And this is a classic spite fade spot. So if you like Kentucky, definitely take Kentucky because I'm spite fading. Which might not be smart, but who knows? We're going to find out on Saturday, shall we? USC going into Oregon with an obscene spread. Oregon is a 9.5-point favorite at home to the University of Southern California. I walked around my entire office. I asked everyone in my office, why is this spread the way it is? Not a single person could give me an answer. And not only that, every single person when I then told the spread to, and I said, hey, just so you know, Oregon's -9.5, they went, What? Why is Oregon -9.5? I mean, I know we respect Dante Moore. I know Eugene is a really hard place to play in, but 9.5 to USC, who just went to battle with Iowa, and Iowa did battle with Oregon the week before. I feel like that didn't give you any indication that Oregon would then bring USC in and spank them around. So I'm going to take USC with the 9.5 points. I'll bite the cheddar. I'll call Vegas's bluff. I just don't see a world in which this Oregon team should be that heavy of a favorite. Who's going to stop Mekhi Lemon? Who's going to stop Jacoby Lane? Like, I don't have those answers on the Oregon defense for a full 4 quarters to win this game by 9 or more points. And on the other side of the ball, it's not like Oregon has looked that phenomenal. We're still looking back at a Penn State win going, yeah, that's a legit team. And I just feel like USC going into Oregon, this is going to be an absolute back and forth game. It's going to be a track meet. And whoever has the ball last, I think, is going to win this game, which tells me it's a 1-possession game. So I'm going to take USC with the 9.5. It might be a really bad bet. I'm also in love with the over 59.5. The fact that the over-under is that high, I think this is going to be a take the top off, air it out, 3-step drop, like everything that goes into a classic Oregon-USC matchup from back in the Pac-12 days, I think is about to unfold in front of our eyes. And I love the over 59.5. I'm going to take USC plus 9.5 in a game that I think is going to be closer than a lot of people think. And I'm going to call Vegas's bluff. And maybe I'm the idiot. So you can go ahead, brand me idiot. Michigan traveling into Maryland. We've got the battle of the freshmen. Not the battle of the bastards. This is the battle of the freshmen. We've got Malik Washington taking on our boy Bryce Underwood. And I'm just finding it hard to not take Maryland plus 13.5. Tentatively right now, I have that button clicked. Michigan just did battle with Northwestern. And if Maryland was like an undefeated team in the Big Ten, I'd go, okay, that was like a great look-ahead spot. Maybe you just let your guard down against Northwestern. But they're not. So I don't know what was going on with that Michigan team. That game seemed very weird. The defense didn't seem to click. Bryce couldn't seem to get anything going. And now you go into Maryland. I'm not saying Maryland is a very hard place to play, but this stadium is going to be packed. So I might as well take 13.5 points in my pocket with 2 freshman quarterbacks where there's going to be mistakes made. There's going to be big chunk plays, and I want to be on the side of the home team. And I do genuinely believe that Maryland could potentially be a live dog here. I don't think Michigan is who we thought they were from the start of the year, and I think they've been slowly proving it to us in these weird games like against Northwestern. So I absolutely love having 13.5 points in my pocket with Malik Washington. I think it's going to be a slow game. If you bet unders, this might be your under spot. I know Maryland's our wagon of overs, but literally every time we took an over in a Maryland game and everyone over. So, whatever it be, 13.5 points is a crazy amount of points for a home team that's getting Michigan, who just struggled against Northwestern. So I'm going to take the 13.5. The University of Pittsburgh is going into Georgia Tech, and it's a 2.5-point spread. I cannot fathom what the University of Pittsburgh head coach said last weekend. And if you didn't hear it, I'll tell you it right now. The University of Pitt played Notre Dame last weekend. And the head coach of the University of Pittsburgh, because I guess when you talk about the playoff committee and what they weight, the ACC is the only thing that matters. And I guess Pitt, I believe I might be misspeaking, but I know this is the general idea that Pitt needs to win the ACC to have a chance of getting in the playoffs, so only their ACC games matter. The game against Notre Dame doesn't matter at all. And he went on a press conference and said, I wouldn't mind losing this game 100-0 because it's not an ACC game, so it doesn't matter. And then they went out there and they got absolutely face melted by Notre Dame. And I think that is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard a head coach say. That bleeds into your locker room, whether you want it to or not. Whether you go into the locker room and say, hey, guys, I'm going to say some stuff like, just so you know, we're playing some mind games this weekend. Once I'm a player and I hear my coach say that, I don't care about the game. Now you're baking it into my head that we don't care about this game, so why would I care about this game? And they looked horrific. They looked like a team that was okay losing 100-0. And by the way, if you're Pitt and you punch Notre Dame in the mouth and you keep that game close and you potentially win that game, you knock Notre Dame out of the playoff. So it's not always about you. And I think, let's take a step back here. That's a great lesson in life. Not everything you do is all about you. I got some great advice one time that you don't have to be the main character all the time. That not every single thing has to be about you. And I think when I heard that advice, it's really tough advice to swallow because you go, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? Everything should be about me. I should be the main character. And I think when you step back and you breathe a little bit, I realized how good of advice that really was. Because when you can approach a situation and go, I might not be the most important piece in this puzzle. In other puzzles, I might be the most important piece. But in this puzzle right here, I don't necessarily think I'm the most important piece. So I'm not going to make this about me. And I think I've found that by doing that, a lot of situations end up going not the way you want it to, but more smoothly when you're not trying to constantly be the center of attention, constantly be the main thing. And, I definitely struggled with that in my life. But I think this is a classic example of that Pitt head coach thinking that every single thing is about the University of Pittsburgh. You could have knocked Notre Dame out of the playoff, brother. You could have been the team that knocked Notre Dame out of the playoff. And by the way, there is a contingent of college football fans that want Notre Dame to have nothing to do with the college football playoff. They want them to pick a conference. They want them to stop being cowards. And they don't want them in the playoff because they think they get a free bid. And Pitt had an opportunity to represent that contingent and go, you know what? We're about to knock you off your tracks. We're about to make you join a conference because guess what? You're missing the playoff this year. And are you okay with missing a playoff this year when you could join a conference and potentially get more than one bid? So Pitt, really, really dumb. I am absolutely unleashing on the Bees money line. I'm taking Georgia Tech money line. I'm taking Georgia Tech minus 2.5. I'm taking Georgia Tech's team total. This is a Pitt team that the coach just allowed to hit the brakes for the season. He just was going 80 on the highway. Not saying Pitt was going 80 on the highway in terms of they were having a great year, but the freshman quarterback was wheeling and dealing. He was going 80 on the highway, and then he pumped his brakes. And it takes a little bit to get back up to 85 feeling comfortable because you just pumped your brakes, slowed all the way down to 50, and then you do one of these in traffic and you go, oh, shit, and you make sure everyone knows you're safe and you're paying attention even though you might have been on your phone, and now you're trying to get back up to 85 miles per hour. And unfortunately, you're walking into a Georgia Tech team that just had to squeak one out against Boston College, and I think that was a game where Georgia Tech walked into the locker room and went, hey, we got to figure this out. We can't be taking steps backwards like that this late in the season. And now you get a Pitt team that just pumped the brakes with a head coach that's brain dead, playing a Georgia Tech team that almost just lost to one of the worst teams in college football. And I think that is the perfect formula for a belting. And I think Georgia Tech's going to bring out the belt. Our last key game before we move to some other games that you should want to wager or watch this weekend, BYU going into Cincinnati. Cincinnati a 2-point dog at home. I'm going to take the over here. We had Cincinnati last weekend, and by all accounts, they should have blown Arizona out of that field. But unfortunately, second half offensive stalls. That Arizona defense finally wakes up. I love the over in this spot, though. I think we're going to get over 54.5. I think it's going to end up being points. because Brennan Sorsby is not a quarterback that has back-to-back bad games. I think Brennan Sorsby is a guy that can look himself in the mirror and look at that second half and go, that can't happen. When we have 17 points, I can't just score 6 points in the second half. I can't just have a scoreless third quarter. Like, that cannot happen, and I think Brennan Sorsby knows that. And I think this BYU team, when we did the research and I did the numbers and I beep, on the road, they allow a lot of points. And they like to put up a lot of points if you're putting up a lot of points. And I wouldn't be shocked if BYU falls for the trap of making this a boat race, because this Cincinnati defense is not good. And I think a lot of things are going to come easy to BYU. And when things on offense come easier, I in college football, at least in a couple games, you can kind of pick the spots. The defense, not that they're not trying as hard, but there's less pressure because you're going, oh, we're getting everything we want. Shit, we let up that third and 8, but it's okay. Our offense might be able to bail us out. And I think in this game, I wouldn't be shocked if BYU fell for that boat race. And everything's back and forth, and we're flying points back and forth. Which is why I also don't mind taking Cincinnati with the 2.5, because I think if BYU gets into a boat race with Cincinnati, I think Cincinnati becomes a very live dog at home, which means that this game just went under 54.5 and BYU won by 17, and I'm an idiot. But I think if that's the way the game goes and that's how I'm looking at the game, those are the two wagers that I need to make, and I'm going to make those wagers. So I love the over. And I think a sprinkle on Cincinnati, plus 2.5. All right, it's time now for some other games you need to wager on and or watch. Rutgers, Ohio State, points. This Rutgers offense is sneaky. They're going to put up points, and that defense is a moose. I wouldn't be shocked if Jeremiah Smith had to, if Carnell Tate had to, and we're looking at a freaking 50-point performance out of Ohio State where Rutgers has 30, and you go, holy crap, we beat the total by 20 points. So I love this over. I just think it's a weird game. Rutgers offense and defense is sneakily bad on defense, sneakily good on offense, and they're going to throw the ball a lot. And I think it's going to kind of make Ohio State have to score a lot. So I like the over 55.5. Arkansas going into Texas. Give me Arkansas plus 9.5. Taylor Green, I think, is just going to go stupid in this game. I don't know why I'm getting such a gut feeling that Taylor Green is going to go crazy. Taylor Green is Gunnar Stockton if he was a little bit more athletic. He's got a way worse team, so let me say that again so you don't think I'm saying that Taylor Green is Gunnar Stockton in Georgia. Taylor Green is Gunnar Stockton if he was more athletic. He uses his feet very frequently. He uses them very smartly, and he knows how to extend a play and get out of the pocket. And I think Texas struggled that against Georgia. I think, too, because Georgia has an unbelievable defense and talent. I'm not saying that this Arkansas team is comparable to Georgia, but the way that Taylor Green plays, I think he's going to make it difficult on this Texas defense. And, yes, they have a really bad Yes, Arkansas is a very bad defense, so maybe Arch Manning, this is the game where he throws for 200 plus and actually looks like a quarterback, which, by the way, how right was I on Georgia? I mean, Arch Manning is not good. The Texas team is not good. They played a really good team in Georgia and got absolutely melted. However, back to Arkansas, plus 9.5. I think Taylor Green runs rampant, keeps this game close. Jacksonville State going into FIU. Weird game. I know what you're thinking. Why are we talking about this game, Mikey? Cam Cook. The kid's going to have 300 rush yards. Just trust. Take Jacksonville State money line going into FIU. Trust. They play a mean brand of football, meat and potatoes, punch you in the mouth for 4 quarters. And I absolutely love everything about Jacksonville State. Gavin Wimsatt was our GOAT, unfortunately now benched. We move. Last 2 games, Nebraska going into Penn State. I'm taking Nebraska plus 9.5. There are certain things that when a coach says, I seriously buy in on, and I love hearing. The first is when you have a guy like Latif, who's one of the most highly rated guys coming into Nebraska, now having to replace an injured Dylan Raiola. And I love when Matt Rhule gets up there and says, listen, this kid's the real deal. He's got to stop playing it so close to his chest. And Nebraska has the weapons for him to throw to. He has Barney. He has Hunter. He has these guys, Dane Key, that you can air the ball out to. And I like the fact that Matt Rhule is saying, listen, you're playing it a little too close to your chest. I'm going to say it to the public so it takes the weight off you so that if we come out gunslinging, throwing it around the park and you turn the ball over a couple times, people know that I'm the reason you're doing that, not because you came in here and we had conversations. Like, I'm going to put it in the public that I think you need to loosen up a little bit. And I think when this kid loosens up, it's going to loosen up against a Penn State defense. And by the way, not everything's going to come down to this kid Latif. You have a potential Heisman candidate running back that no one's talking about, and Emmett Johnson behind you, who's running through guys' faces at a clip we haven't seen since Marshawn Lynch. So now you're telling me establish the run game against a Penn State defense that is absolutely limping through the finish line, and now you have a young quarterback that the head coach is saying, hey, man, just open it up a little bit. You can take some risks. I don't mind a little bit of risk. And I love that in a 9.5 point spread, so give me Nebraska plus 9.5. Our last game of the weekend. I know this is going to be a short episode. I love the slate, but I don't love the slate. I love the slate, but I don't love the slate. Make sure you're following the Twitter for all the plays because I'll probably end up having a frickin' 15 play platter. But Tennessee going into Florida. Tennessee has lost the last 10 outings outright in the Swamp. 10. So what do? 4.5 point spread. I think this is their due narrative of all their due narratives. Tennessee minus 4.5 might become one of my favorite wagers of the entire weekend. 10 straight losses in the Swamp. Florida just looked like a football team finally for the first time all year against Ole Miss going into Ole Miss. Now they come back home. Tennessee's going into a place where they just cannot seem to win against a football team that's doing what they did last year in Florida, where the last couple games here, they go, wait, guys, we're actually really good at football. Maybe we can contend with some of the best teams in the SEC and not look like total poopy. But unfortunately, I just think the narrative is Tennessee is due. And I'm going to take Tennessee minus the 4.5. I think they absolutely cracked them at home. And that's not any offense to Florida fans. I think you're just running into a due narrative that's been being built for a decade, which is crazy to say, a decade. Now we move to everyone's favorite segment of the show, our Pay for the Drinks parlay. 3 legs pays plus 500. Starts with the Georgia Tech money line. We already talked about it. This is a Pitt team that just pumped the brakes. Now you're getting a Georgia Tech team that almost dropped a really crucial game to the worst team in college. It's brewing for Georgia Tech to come out here and just assert their dominance over the ACC again and go, listen, this is why we were undefeated a couple weeks ago, and now we're going to show you again against Pitt. BYU Cincinnati over 53.5. We talked about this game as well. I think this becomes a boat race. This Cincinnati defense is really bad, and BYU is going to put up points on them. And now it comes down to will Brennan Sorsby do what he did last weekend and breathe in the second half? I don't think he will, and I think the Cincinnati team goes, we have to defend our home, and that's with points. Cincinnati's not going to win this game in a drag-out, punch-in-the-mouth, low-scoring game. That's why Arizona was able to beat them. So Cincinnati knows they need to score to win games. Give me the over. And then a quick alternate spread because I'm just a little coward. USC plus 10.5. I'm going to bite the cheese and call Vegas' bluff. I don't think USC is a 10-point underdog to Oregon. I don't think Oregon is a 9-point favorite against USC. So I'm going to take USC plus 10.5, a touchdown and a field goal. And I think that's just what it's going to have to be. 3 legs, plus 500, Georgia Tech money line, the over in BYU Cincinnati, and USC plus 10.5. And that brings us to the end of our episode with a little bit of Mikey Core. I know this was a quick episode, guys, but unfortunately, there's just not a lot of games that I really wanted to dive into. We got Kansas. You know what? I'll squeak that one in. Give me Kansas team total, one of my favorite bets of the weekend. We're running out of time to bet on Jalen Daniels. Give me Kansas team total over 24.5. Now let's get to some Mikey Core. I sat down a couple nights ago. I've been having a rough week. Transparency is transparency. I feel like it normally helps you guys to know what I'm going through because maybe you're going through the same thing. I've just been having a really rough week. I haven't really been feeling like myself. I've definitely been fighting and struggling with a lot of things, and I think this week was kind of I finally got to the bottom of the iceberg. I feel like you can kind of feel it coming for a couple weeks, and you see that tip of the iceberg on the horizon, and then you kind of get to a couple weeks down the line, you go, oh my, I'm all the way down at the bottom of the iceberg now. Like, we found how deep it's going to go, and it's been a rough week. And I think something that I saw, I'm not very religious, but I do like verses in the Bible, and I do think it can be used to apply to your life and stuff like that. And I did see this verse in the Bible. I'm not going to read the whole verse, but just a snippet of it. And it was, find patience in suffering. And I thought that is such a beautiful message. I would love to spread that. Find patience in the suffering. And I think that's a great message because when we finally learn to have patience when we're going through things, when we finally learn to have patience when things aren't going our way, when we're really struggling with something and we're really fighting something and we feel like our back's against the wall and we're trying to push forward but something keeps pushing us back, when we find patience in those moments, in those really long nights where you can't seem to fall asleep, or those really hard days where nothing seems to go your way, if we can just find patience in that suffering, we allow the suffering to go its course. And I think a lot of the times we get impatient and we default to the easiest and worst faculty in all of human existence, which is anger. things aren't going my way, so I'm going to be angry at the world. I'm going to be angry at the people around me. I'm going to be angry at my family. I'm going to be angry at my significant other, and it never works out. Anger never works out. There's never a time someone has gotten angry and looked back and went, that was the correct response to that situation. And I think I was getting to the point this week where I was starting to feel that anger. I was angry at, why am I feeling this way? Why does nothing I'm doing feel right? And then I read that message, and it was just find patience in the suffering. And I think when you are going through something, and a lot of us are going through something, whether we want to admit it or not, it's so hard to be patient in that suffering because you want it to be over with. You don't want to think about it. You want it to be done. You want it to be tomorrow. You want to be moved on with everything that's really ailing you. And I think that's what ends up leading to more problems. And I think this beautiful idea of just finding patience in that suffering, be kind to yourself, sit with those emotions, sit with those feelings and work through them so that you can be done with them. Don't rush things that don't feel good. Don't rush things that are hurting you. Find that patience in the things that are not going your way. And I almost think it's like a beautiful lesson of just get through them. Because if you try to rush through it, maybe it'll get worse. Maybe it could get better. But a lot of times when we rush through things, something's wrong. Or we mess something up. When you rush through the Lego thing, you end up having a piece where you go, wait, where does this go? And then it falls apart a day later. And I think this idea of just slowing down and taking a deep breath, and when things are going really hard or really bad and really difficult, it's really hard to take that deep breath and sit in those emotions and sit in those feelings because all you want to do is get out of them. But I think this idea of once you enter that feeling and the emotions and everything, being able to just center yourself and find patience and go, I'm really feeling bad right now, but I know I'm going to get through this, but I'm going to give myself the time to work through it. And I just think that's beautiful. So if I had a message for you guys for going into the end of this year, into next year, it would just be to find patience in your suffering. Don't make yourself feel bad and try to rush everything. You know, everything's going to come when it comes, and find patience in that bad day that you're having, or have patience with yourself in that night where you can't fall asleep. And I love you guys. So, you know, keep fighting, keep battling. I love you. And you're going to get through it. Take one step forward every single day. I know how hard it can be in life to take a step forward, but if we take one step forward every single day, we're going to be way farther this time next year than if we didn't try to take a step forward every single day. Thank you guys so much for all the support. Please like and subscribe. Share it with a friend. Put it on at the pregame. Would really appreciate if this got to 5,000 views. That would be like oh my gosh, mama, we made it. 5,000 views on YouTube. How about it? But I really appreciate you guys, and hopefully we can cash some wagers. Let's have a weekend.